Norėčiau pristatyti profesorių Steve'ą Nealą. Čia yra prirašyta labai daug jo pasiekimų. Jis yra ir verslo psichologas, ir fiziologas, ir vadovų coachingo specialistas, hipnoterapeutas, fiziodinaminis konsultantas, emocinio intelekto vystytojas, asocijuotas profesorius 5 pasaulio programose vadovams, Britų psichologų asociacijos narys, medicinos asociacijos narys Didžiojoje Britanijoje, tarptautinis autorius, jo knygos išverstos į 12 pasaulio kalbų, kūrėjas akredituotos magistro programos, lyderystės ir daugelio kitų programų, taip pat dabar jau ir Lietuvos socialinio emocinio ugdymo asociacijos narys Steve'as Nealas.
Thank you, Emma. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Now it's time for the earphones for maybe some of you. I've got a really important question for you. How are you feeling right now? Huh? Lots of smiling faces or smiling eyes, yeah? You know, that question, how am I feeling right now, I believe is the most important question you can ever ask yourself. And here's why. Everything you've ever done in your life and everything you ever do in your life is irrational, emotional, and illogical. You have never ever done anything 100% rational in your life. You've never made a rational decision, you've never made a rational action, you haven't even had a rational thought. That's because our emotions manage our thoughts. They also manage our behaviors, and they impact on everything we do. This is not psychology. This is neuroscience I'm talking about. This is not theory, this is fact. I'm going to share with you very soon the fact behind that little explanation. I've got another question for you. What percentage of your day, every day, do you think is managed by your unconscious mind, subconscious mind? It's also called the limbic system, the part of your brain deep down that you're not consciously aware of. What percentage of each day is managed by that? In other words, what percentage of each day are you doing actions, performing things, even having thoughts, and not being consciously aware of it? You don't have to figure it out for yourselves because psychologists have already researched this, and I can tell you that factually 95 to 99% of your day is managed by your unconscious brain. So pretty much all of it. You're doing things that you don't even think about. Think about this for a moment. Did any of you have a shower this morning? When you had a shower, did you get into the shower and have to take 10 minutes to figure out how to operate it? Or did you just automatically turn it on and then you were thinking about something else while you were having the shower? But you weren't born as a baby with the ability to operate a shower. It's not something that all human babies have when they're born. So at some point you learned it and your subconscious brain has stored that. What about driving a car? Many of you may have driven here today. Did you have to think about that? Or while you were driving, were you free to think about other things? But once again, babies aren't born with the ability to drive. Did you make a cup of coffee today? So now you see where I'm coming from. 95 to 99% of your actions every day are managed by your subconscious brain. Now that's really good news when it comes to operating a shower, driving your car. It's okay? Operating a shower, driving your car, because if you had to think about these things every day, then you wouldn't get very far. Because it would take you an hour to figure out how to tie your shoelaces every morning, how to make your coffee, how to operate your shower, and then the challenge of driving your car. So for these good habits, it's really a good thing that your subconscious brain has learned them. What about the bad ones? Because we all got them. What about the bad habits that you've learned in terms of leading yourself or leading your relationships with others? You see, we have a system. We have proven tools that I've been working with for over 13 years that can help you to become a master of leading yourself and a master of leading your relationships with others. And the foundation to these tools is emotional intelligence. I'd like to tell you a story about a rider and an elephant. You see, here we have the ending of the story, and it's a happy ending. Yeah? We see the rider and the elephant, they're driving off in harmony into the sunset, together as a team. But it didn't start that way, this story. You see, if we go back 12 months before this, the rider was very, very unhappy. He was frustrated, sometimes even angry, because he didn't know how to train his elephant, and he didn't know how to work in harmony with his elephant. He failed, time and time again. He asked the elephant to do something, he wanted the elephant to do something, the elephant didn't do it. And he was really frustrated because he knew it was possible, because he'd seen other people riding their elephants. So he knew his task was possible. He also knew his task was something that every person could achieve. His instinct told him this. First of all, he tried to punish the elephant. So every time the elephant refused to do what he wanted it to do, he took away its bananas. He basically said, no bananas for you. That didn't work. Elephants don't like it if you take away their bananas. So they're even less likely to do what you want them to do. So then he tried another strategy, and he thought, I'll give it more bananas. Yeah? If my elephant does what I want it to do, I'll bribe it by giving it lots of extra bananas. That kind of worked a little bit better, but still the elephant, depended how it felt, you know? You know what elephants are like, right? They're big, they're strong, they have their own ideas. One day he met a very wise man, and the wise man sensed his frustration and said to him, would you like me to help you? Would you like me to teach you how you can work in harmony with your elephant? Please do, said the rider. You know, I'm full of frustration and anger, and I know this is possible. What do I need to do? What do I need to do? So, the wise man said, have you tried listening to your elephant? Listening to my elephant? Why would I listen to an elephant? It's a dumb animal. No, listen to your elephant. Have you tried noticing and being mindful of what makes your elephant angry, what makes it sad, what makes it excited, what motivates it, what demotivates it? And if you try to understand that, no? Do that. Have you tried being patient with your elephant? Have you tried showing your elephant empathy and understanding? No? Do that. So he did. The rider spent many months learning to understand his elephant. And to his surprise, this was the result. He became able to live a harmonious life, forming a perfect teamwork between himself and the elephant. But he didn't stop there, the rider. You see, he got so inspired by this that he didn't want to just keep it to himself. So he wanted to teach others. So what he did is he shared his story, and he shared what he'd learned about his elephant with other people. Shared it with his colleagues, shared it with his children, shared it with people he worked with, shared it with his friends. And he also found great happiness in being able to share these secrets with others. You see, the whole of today is about your elephant and your rider. You probably didn't know you had an elephant before you came here today, did you? And you're probably thinking, why are we calling ourselves elephant.lt? And why is that the brand and the website? Because it's all about elephants. You see, the elephant is a part of your brain, and the rider is a different part of your brain. And the key to becoming a master of your emotional intelligence, a master of your own life, a master of your relationships, and then sharing that with others so that you transform the lives of others. Most importantly, children, because this is where it all starts. We get it right there, then we don't have to spend time later figuring it out and correcting all the things we got wrong. And the key to that is all about understanding your rider and elephant relationship. I'll tell you lots more about that today. Here's what I've done. A few things. I've worked with more than 13,000 people sharing this stuff, and it works. And I've had the great pleasure of coming to Lithuania now for about 13 years. And I've worked with directly more than 3,000 people in this country, mainly in the business sector, but also I've had the pleasure of sharing learnings with teachers, psychologists, pedagogues, social workers, working actively with Irma and Save the Children. This stuff is universal. The principles that I teach, the tools that I share about becoming an outstanding leader of yourself and others, they work equally well if you're the CEO of a big multinational company or you're a small child, 8 years old, trying to figure out important things about what makes you happy in life. It's the same stuff. It's no different, because a brain is a brain. In actual fact, the really good news is if we start sharing it with children, they get it much quicker. Because unlike adults who started to form all the cynicism and negative beliefs, maybe give up on their dreams, maybe suffer from stress, and all the problems that adults develop, children, if they have the right support, they don't have those problems. So when I have had the pleasure of working through people that share this directly with children, they pick it up so quickly, so enthusiastically. It's almost like they're pure to start with, until we as adults, we screw that up. Somehow, our education system, the way in which we work with them, makes mistakes. And don't get me wrong, I'm not blaming any one of you people here. I'm sure you're doing an amazing job in what you do. Just maybe we sometimes need to learn some extra tools and how to work not just with the intellectual brain, but actually with the emotional brain, which is essentially our chief executive. It's in charge of us if we allow it to be. The training that we have developed has also been recognized by the UK government. So 2010, we won the UK government award for the best training program in the UK. And that was a training program assessed on the long-term lasting results of the tools that we shared with people. So we're not talking about having a small amount of training, having a honeymoon effect, and then forgetting it. We're talking about introducing tools that make lasting changes to people's lives here. That's kind of important, I guess. What is it? The whole conference is about emotional intelligence, and I'll specifically be introducing one model of emotional intelligence called the Limbic Performance System, which I created. You know, the simplest definition of emotional intelligence I ever saw was emotional intelligence is being intelligent about your emotions. Yeah. That's it. What could be so difficult? Yeah? That's the definition. It's one definition. I teach a master's program where we have 12 days together. We have several of our fantastic alumni, graduates of the masters here today. And even after 12 days of training, we're still only scratching the surface. I could actually continue for another 20 days with new concepts, new ideas, because actually this is a huge topic. There are so many different aspects that we can measure. There are so many different aspects that we can develop. There's so many different aspects we can change. And we're going to give you a taste today of some of the key areas. But it is only a taste. We're only scratching the surface, believe me. The reason why I got interested in emotional intelligence theory is because it's based on neuroscience. And it's based on our brains, you see. There we have a picture of our brain, and our brains evolved And of course, this is an oversimplification, because our brains are much more complicated than this. But our brains evolved in three major development stages. First of all, we all have a reptile brain. And your reptile brain is your spinal cord running down your back. And at the top of the spinal cord, you've got the brain stem, little kind of dip at the back of your neck, which connects your spinal cord with the higher brain regions. It's called the reptile brain because it's based on evolution that we evolved from reptiles. And it keeps us alive. It does a good job of basic survival instincts. It tells us when we need to eat, it tells us when we need to sleep, it tells us when we need to have sex, and it tells us when we need to not get killed. And if you think about it, as long as you eat, you sleep, you have sex, and you don't get killed, you do quite well as surviving as a species. Yeah? That's kind of the basics. You take any one of those away, we don't survive. So the reptile brain is very good at basic human survival. Some of you may have friends or colleagues, and you've been out at maybe a school party with them, or you've had the occasion where you're socializing with them, and they have maybe an extra glass of wine, and then an extra glass of wine, and then maybe another glass of wine. And as they drink more wine, you see the reptile brain become more and more active. You've seen that, right? You know what I'm talking about. So at our basic core, we're all reptiles. But we didn't stop growing there. You see, we decided to develop an elephant. And the elephant from the story is your subconscious brain. It's your limbic system. It's your emotional brain. It's the part of your brain that generates and drives your emotions. So your motivation to do things comes from this part of the brain. And all an emotion is a chemical change in the body. So every time you feel happy, sad, bored, scared, excited, or whatever emotion we use words to describe, this is purely a chemical change in your body. You can feel it. Where do you feel your happiness? Where do you feel your excitement? Where do you feel your sadness? How do you know you're sad? You feel it somewhere, because chemicals are changing in your body. That's what an emotion is. It's a chemical change. So, we've got our emotional brain, we've got our elephant. It also stores all of your beliefs about the world. And a belief about the world is based on your previous experiences and memories. So things happen to you in life. You're taught things by teachers, by your parents. You have good experiences, you have bad experience. This is life. The limbic system, the elephant, stores these as memories. And we could call a memory, we could also call it a belief, because we all have beliefs about the world. You all have beliefs about yourself. I'm going to talk much more about that later when we talk about self-worth. This is the key to developing emotional intelligence, because all a belief is there's a pattern of nerve cells that have arranged in a certain order in your subconscious brain. It's a coding system. And we can reprogram every single one of them. So every belief you have is not a fact, it's a belief. And if it's a good one, you might want to keep it. If it's not such a good one, you might want to change it. And here's the good news, you can. And you know, one of my favorite questions is, do you live in the world, or does the world live in you? You see, I believe the world lives in you. You don't live in the world. So the inner world of beliefs about the world that you create in your subconscious brain is what you see on the outside world. So if you believe that the world is a dangerous place and you shouldn't fly because you watch the news every day and they tell you there's too many terrorists everywhere, then that's the reality that you will see. And you will read newspapers and you will look for evidence to support that belief. But if you choose to believe that the world is a very safe place to be, and generally humans are very good-natured, and it's only a very, very, very small minority that are dangerous, but actually this is not something that should be part of your life, then you will see a different world. You will have different experiences. If you're driving together with a colleague to work, and he believes that women drivers are bad drivers, that belief system will filter the fact that he sees 2 examples of bad women drivers on the way to work. He was in the same car as you on the same journey, and you didn't see that because you don't have that belief. So we have to be very careful which beliefs we choose. And by the way, we do choose our beliefs because those beliefs become the reality that we see in the world. So the more negative beliefs we form, the more negative our life becomes. It's that simple, unless you want to change it. And that's the great news about emotional intelligence. You see, every belief that you have is changeable and developable. I have the evidence, I have the tools. We even have the neuroscience evidence now. There is now real-time scanning techniques that can show you, literally, your belief patterns reprogramming and forming new neurons in the brain. So you can actually see new patterns of beliefs form. We can film that now. We know how it works. So all we need to put into that is the tools to help us do it in our daily lives. That's why I'm here. That's why I do what I do. We've got a rational brain. It's the rider. It's our newest part of the brain. It's the neocortex. Neocortex in Latin means new covering, new shell, new sheath. The neocortex has a region at the front which is responsible for thinking. It's our rational brain. It is associated with intellect, ability for mathematical reasoning, your IQ. This is another part of our brain. It's our rider. But the reason why I'm calling it a rider is because it's not as big or as strong or as powerful as the elephant. And we have evidence for this now. You see, we can actually measure how many nerve cells are actively firing in any 1 second in different parts of our brain. So we can see actually the processing power of the rider compared to the processing power of the elephant. Think about this question for a second. What do you think is the maximum number of nerve cells that is actively firing in the rational, intellectual, intelligent part of our brain in 1 second, in the rider? Somewhere between 10 and 100 is the maximum capacity. You've got 10 to 100 active nerve cells firing right now in your subconscious brain, in your rational brain, in your rider. Now that might not sound like a lot, but each nerve cell has the same processing power in 1 second as the most powerful desktop computer that we've invented so far. So when you're on full processing power in your rational brain, you've actually got about 100 computers worth of intellect processing power. So we've got a pretty serious computer up there. What about the elephant? You see, the rider shuts down at night. When we go to sleep, there's no activity in the rider. It's resting, unless we're dreaming. Because we need the rider to create pictures, because it's the only part of our brain that can create pictures. And we dream in pictures. So the rider is active when we're dreaming. But otherwise, in deep sleep, it's doing nothing. The elephant is working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, from well before we are born. The elephant starts working when you're in your mother's womb. And it's powerful. How many nerve cells in 1 second are actively firing every second, every day of your life, every minute? 6 billion. That's quite a big number, isn't it? Yeah? That's 6 billion neurons of processing power in your subconscious brain every second. 6 billion computers. That's a lot of computers you got there. Unbelievably powerful. So, not surprising that if your rider is trying to tell the elephant to do something, if the elephant doesn't want to do it, it doesn't do it, because it's not really a fair negotiation. You've got 100 nerve cells maximum trying to persuade 6 billion to do something. It's not going to work. And of course we know this. Why is it that people smoke when they know it's bad for their health? Why is it that people drink too much when they know it damages their liver? Why is it that people eat unhealthy food and become overweight even when it's affecting their health? Is it because their rider doesn't intellectually understand that these things are bad? No. There's more than enough evidence to show us these things, so why do we still do it? Because the elephant wants to, because the elephant's become addicted to it, because the elephant likes it. So we have to learn how to work with the elephant in a way that the elephant understands to motivate it to change. Just telling the elephant to change and giving it logical reasons doesn't work. How do you guys react to change when someone comes into your organization and says, we're going to make some changes next week? What's your response? Are you all smiling? Fantastic. Changes. I love changes. More changes. We had some last week. Let's have some more next week. Bring it on. No, because your elephant doesn't like change. So your automatic emotional reaction to any change is at best going to be cautious. At worst, it's going to be really negative and resistant, even before you understand what the change actually is. So in all change situations, whether it's to develop ourselves, which is a change, develop our organization, work more effectively with children, we have to work with the elephant first and foremost. And we have to have the tools to do that, because intellect doesn't inspire change. The elephant doesn't even understand language. Language was invented by the rider, so that on some level we could communicate with each other, so we understand. Understanding is the rider. That's the rider's job. The elephant doesn't understand. The elephant feels, it motivates, and it inspires us to take action based on what it feels. So speaking to the elephant is a waste of time, because it doesn't understand it. It doesn't understand any language. We developed a model. Most people come to me because they're interested in helping people or themselves to change their behavior or performance. It's the same thing. We just call it performance, and then we charge more money to companies because they like that word, but it's behavior, right? So, what do we do to understand where our current behaviors come from, and how are we going to change our future behaviors? And what we do to do that is we have to go below the iceberg. We have to look at basic human emotional needs. I'm going to tell you what they are, and we're going to look at those after the break. We have to help people to understand what their personal values are. These are the strongest beliefs that you have in your subconscious brain that are actually a moral compass for your life. But because they're in your subconscious brain, most people never get consciously aware of what their values are and how to work with them. Your attitudes or your beliefs, for me it's the same thing. You have hundreds of them, thousands of them. They are determining directly the quality of your life. And what you do every day, and the type of feedback that you give every child, because children are growing their attitudes and beliefs at a much faster rate than adults, that is determining the future for that child. What they believe about themselves and the world is going to be heavily influenced by those people that they spend most time with as adults when they're children, and that's going to be their parents and their teachers. So every piece of feedback, every piece of behavior that you show is actually having an influence on the beliefs and attitudes of the children that see you doing it. So that's why, and I think Irma already mentioned this, if we're going to help children in Lithuania and make this one of the, if not the best society to live in, and I believe we can do that because it's a small country and we're in a position today where we can make a real change, we have to first start with the people that are educating the children. There's no point in putting your child's oxygen mask on the plane and dying yourself. Every plane journey will tell you, put your own oxygen mask on first. So we have to start with the teachers, and we have to teach the parents as well. And then and only then, we're in a position where authentically, because the teachers themselves are living an emotionally intelligent life and they're showing these behaviors every day, then the children will believe it. Then the children will buy into it. And then we can start sharing with the children how they can use these tools in an appropriate way developed for their age. That's already been done. We have a toolkit for training 6-7-year-olds into teenagers year by year in emotional intelligence. It's already there. But there's no point in asking a physics teacher to train physics if they don't know anything about physics, is there? There's no point in recruiting a new mathematics teacher to your school who's got no understanding of mathematics and say, please go and teach the children. So why should we assume that any teacher can go and teach emotional intelligence if they don't understand it and live it in their own life? So it starts with you guys. A couple of things I'll say, then we're going to have a break. The purpose of your life, actually no, I'm going to skip that one. Let's move on. How is your emotional intelligence linked to performance and behavior? I guess I already explained this. There's a famous sports psychologist. He's a guy called Tim Galway. And my colleague Lisa, when I wrote my first book with her, she interviewed him and she said, Tim, how would you explain the connection between daily behavior and emotional intelligence? And he said, it's really simple. Your performance or your behavior is your potential minus your interferences. So every single one of you are not meeting your full potential as a human being right now, myself included. And that's potential in all areas. Could you be more effective at being a teacher? Yes, you could. Could you be a better swimmer? Yes, you could. Could you be a better mother? Yes, you could. Doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you today. It does mean, however, you could learn some things that your behavior would become more effective, so you would get better results. And what's stopping you is your interferences. What Tim Galway discovered in his years and years as a top professional tennis coach is that there's only so much knowledge and skills you can teach a young tennis player. You teach them how to hold the racket, you teach them how to make a serve, you teach them how to do a backhand, you teach them how to practice this. But then they get to a level where they're all very good at this. They all have the basic knowledge and skills. But there's something else he discovered that then takes them to the top level of behavior. And that's attitudes and beliefs. You see, your biggest block to your own leadership journey, leadership of yourself, leadership of others, because that's what I mean when I say leadership. And the biggest block to any of the children that you're working with will actually be attitudes or beliefs. Yeah? Companies find this out every day because they spend a lot of money to send people on training courses, and the training courses teaches lots of knowledge and skills. But that knowledge and skills training is only really effective if everyone came with the perfect set of attitudes and beliefs. Everyone wanted to be there, everyone was open to the learning, everyone believed they could do it, everyone believed they could be a great presenter, a great writer, a great whatever it is you're training them in. But people have these, what we call limiting beliefs. You've got them. I've had many. I probably still have some. I've worked a lot on changing mine. I don't have them anymore. And when I changed my beliefs, my world changed. My life changed. It's that simple. Couple of slides and then we'll have a break. So just to introduce to you, what is emotional intelligence theory? Actually, it contains two main aspects. Your intrapersonal intelligence, which is your ability to understand and manage yourself. And the other major element is your interpersonal intelligence. It's your ability to understand and manage your relationships with other people. What else is there in life if you're a human? Everything you do every day is either about managing yourself or managing your relationships with others. Unless you live on a complete desert island and you never ever see anyone. But most humans are unhappy with that because we're social animals. We need a level of social interaction in order to feel that we have a value in the world. So we need these two intelligences. And actually the model, which we don't have time to go through all of it today, but we're going to touch on some of the key parts, looks like this. So we've got what I call the emotional foundations. These are things that everybody needs. It's universal. We all need our basic human emotional needs met. I'm going to speak about those after the break. We all need to know, if we're going to be truly happy, what our personal values are and how to live our life true to those values. But we equally need a sense of self-worth. Because self-worth is the foundation of self-leadership. If you don't like yourself, if you don't accept yourself, if you're not comfortable in your own skin, if you're constantly trying to prove something to other people all the world, you're never going to be happy. And if we have a high level of self-worth, we also need a high level of emotional self-awareness. We need to be able to tap into our emotions and find out what they're telling us, because your emotions all the time are telling you something, normally through the body. Are you hungry? Are you not hungry? Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you tired? Are you bored? Are you excited? Are you afraid? Your emotions are telling you how you're feeling. Some people are very good at listening to that. Other people are really bad at listening to that. We need to develop this as a competence. If we get these right, then we're more likely to do all of these things, manage our stress well, live a more positive life, have better balance of our energy in our life, be more flexible in change situations, lead a more authentic life. You know, I have coached so many business leaders who come to me and say, Steve, actually, I want to be a more authentic leader. It feels like I'm playing a role at work. It feels like I'm pretending to be something I'm not. It's really hard to be something you're not. It's really hard to play a role. But sadly, society or organizations put expectations on us of what a good mother should be, what a good teacher should be. And we try to fulfill these expectations, but sometimes they're not authentic to us. You've got to find your way. Just like every child that you teach should be encouraged to find his or her way. Sometimes it doesn't quite fit into the rules that are being set by society. This is the way it should be done. No. Your way is the way it should be done. Of course, we have morals and ethics. We're not talking about, doing horrible acts to humanity or breaking those types of codes. But I think we need to have much more flexibility in acceptance of children and adults about what is the right way to do it. Because the right way is actually your way. And then we have to have equal levels of respect for others. If you don't respect people, if you don't respect them for who they are, how are you ever going to form good relationships with them? Doesn't mean you have to like what they do. Doesn't even mean you need to agree with their opinions. But every one of you, every child that you teach, has the right to be respected for who they are. One of my favorite sayings is judgment is the enemy of understanding. The second you start judging someone as a good child, a bad child, a good person or a bad person, is exactly the same second that you stop understanding them. You're never going to understand someone that you've judged and put into the bad category. People do bad things. People make mistakes. We're all human. Judge the actions, absolutely. Don't judge the person. Yeah? If somebody tells lies, does that mean they're a bad person? How can we judge that? We can judge that we don't like lying, and we can also judge that for us it's wrong, fine. But how do we know the person is a bad person just because they lied? Maybe they were afraid that their family wouldn't get paid, so they made false results. Maybe they were taught to lie by their teachers or parents. I don't know. Does that mean they're a bad person if this has become part of their life? You have to be careful with that. We also need to be more aware of others and tune into the emotional states of other people. I cannot think of a more important job than the job most of you guys are doing in terms of understanding your kids and knowing where they are emotionally. And remember, most of the time people won't say it because no one has taught them how to express their emotions. It's one of the things we do. But most of the people will express how they're feeling non-verbally. Body language, eye contact, facial expression, general energy is going to tell you how people are feeling. People communicate primarily non-verbally. You cannot not communicate. Every single one of you is communicating a message to me now. Whether you're happy, interested, bored, not bored, it's all coming through the contact you're giving me. So you cannot not communicate. Wouldn't it be great if as teachers we became real masters of learning how to read this in others and then use it to help them? Not to manipulate them, not to get them to do what you want, but use it for their benefit. This is the point of emotional intelligence for others. And then, how about relationships where we know how to manage conflict, that we've got healthy levels of trust, that we're open about how we feel with people because we've learned how to be open about feelings, we've been taught. How about we've learned how to cooperate with others? How about we're effective at supporting others? These are all behaviors that we can learn and develop based on the foundations below. Here's the good news. Every single one of these 17 areas is measurable, and every single one of them is changeable and developable. Therefore, every single aspect of emotional intelligence can be changed and can be developed. Some more good news. Generally, it gets better as we get older. It's called wisdom. It's called maturity. But actually, why should we have to wait until we're 75 to become highly emotionally intelligent when we could actually share the tools of how to develop it to a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old, and actually we can reach the typical level of emotional intelligence of a 75-year-old at 25. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Yeah? I wish I'd known some of the things that I've used over the last 13 years when I was 20. Because I know my maturity, my wisdom would have developed much quicker. Cool. There are many things we can do to develop our emotional intelligence. I haven't got time to share all of these with you now, but we're going to share some of the tools and techniques during the day. It's a very holistic model. And one of the reasons I love the model is it draws from all of the best, in my opinion, of different fields of psychology. And it accepts a whole range of different techniques, all of which have been proven to have benefits for the way that we manage ourselves and the way that we manage our relationships, which is another definition of emotional intelligence. So there's a whole bunch of ways that we can develop this, believe me. One of the things that we've developed in BCS is we have a measurement tool. So we get people to do a questionnaire, and instantly you're getting feedback on where you currently see yourself in these 17 areas. That's valuable, because we need to know where to focus our rider and our attention to start, right? This is a lot to develop here, so this helps as a starting point, to have an indicator, to have a guide on where we're currently strong and where we currently see ourselves as needing development. That will help. Okay, last slide. Just some of the companies that we've worked with. The program that we run is accredited by the Chartered Management Institute in the UK. It's endorsed by ISM here in Lithuania. That's just a few facts about the LPS. That's kind of the logical stuff. That's the boring stuff. We also have, to back this up, an online program. Because I suddenly realized 2 or 3 years ago that when I teach my master's program, I get to share in depth what I've learned and I know works about this model. But that takes 12 days minimum, plus a lot of work in between. So what I decided to do is I came to a little film studio in Kaunas, and I got a young guy called Mantas, who's a great film guy, and I spent 5 days filming, and I filmed all 12 days of training onto one film. Actually, it's 30 films divided up into short, because one film of 12 days, that's kind of a long movie, right? You know, it's kind of an Avatar thing. So I filmed lots of short movies, and now it's all available online. So everything I've been learning and teaching, and I'm so passionate about over the last 13 years, is now available also online. So we have a means of being able to share this with not hundreds, not thousands, but potentially millions of people. And this is one of the reasons I'm here today, because I'd love to be able to share these tools with you. I think we're going to have a break here, man.
Taigi dabar